When I first saw the house, it looked like it was holding its breath. It sat halfway up a mountain road, half hidden by tall pine trees and wrapped in fog that smelled faintly of wet moss and stone. The roof sagged, the porch was crooked, and one of the windows was boarded up from the inside. But something about it called to me, a strange, quiet pull, like an echo of a life that used to exist there and wanted to be remembered. I bought it on a whim. After years of city noise, deadlines, and staring at screens until my eyes hurt, I wanted something real, something that could breathe again if I just gave it time and care. I thought I'd spend the summer fixing it up, one plank and brushstroke at a time. My name is Daniel, and that mountain house was supposed to be my new beginning. The first week, I worked in silence, waking to the sound of wind moving through the pines. It was a lonely kind of peace. Each morning, I'd make coffee on a camp stove, then start cleaning, old nails, broken glass, forgotten tools. Inside, the walls were dark with soot, and the floors creaked like they were whispering secrets. Still, it felt right. Honest work. I scrubbed the dust from the windows and imagined how light might look once it could get in again. By the second week, I'd started repairs on the roof. Every afternoon the mountain clouds rolled in, soft and low, and rain misted through the trees. The rhythm of drops on tin was strangely comforting, like a heartbeat. Sometimes, I'd pause and just listen. I thought I was alone up there. But I wasn't. It was early one evening when I first noticed movement down the dirt road. A gray SUV crawled up the hill, headlights cutting through the mist. At first, I assumed it was a delivery truck or maybe someone lost. But when it stopped right in front of my porch and a woman stepped out, I felt a sudden, uneasy shift in the air. She was in her 40s, with a sharp face and the kind of confidence that makes people move aside in grocery stores. Two teenagers got out after her, both looking annoyed to be there. She didn't say hello. She just stared at the house, then at me, like I was trespassing on something that belonged to her. "Excuse me," she said, arms crossed. "What exactly do you think you're doing here?" I wiped my hands on my jeans. "I'm fixing up my place," I said. "Bought it last month from the county auction." Her expression hardened. "That's impossible. This is our family home. It's been in my husband's family for generations." I blinked. "Well, it was foreclosed years ago. The bank sold it." The woman shook her head slowly, as if explaining something to a child. "No. That must be a mistake. We've been planning to move back in for months. You'll need to leave." For a long moment, we just stared at each other. The wind hissed through the trees, carrying the faint sound of thunder. I tried to stay calm. "Look," I said gently, "I have all the paperwork, deed, sale record, everything. You're welcome to see it." She frowned but didn't answer. Instead, she turned to her kids and said, "Go get the boxes." Before I could stop them, the teenagers opened the SUV trunk and started unloading, sleeping bags, plastic bins, a cooler. My stomach dropped. "Wait, what are you doing?" I stepped off the porch. "We're moving back in," she said flatly. "You can sort out your little mistake with the county, but this is our house. My husband grew up here." I felt heat rise in my chest. "Ma'am, you can't just move into a house that's not yours." Her eyes narrowed. "And you can't just steal someone's home." That night, I sat in my truck outside the gate, calling the sheriff's office. The dispatcher sighed when I explained what happened. "Oh, that property," she said. "You're not the first to have trouble with the Thompsons. Apparently, Karen Thompson and her family had a history of squatting in abandoned or foreclosed homes around the county, claiming family ties or legal confusion until authorities forced them out. Each time, they managed to stretch the process for weeks, sometimes months. I was told an officer would come up the next day. So, I drove back up the road and parked near the house. Lights glowed from inside my house. Shadows moved through the windows. Laughter, a television, the clatter of dishes. It was surreal, standing there in the drizzle, hearing strangers settle into a place I'd dreamed about restoring. That night, I slept in my truck. The next morning, I knocked on my own front door. Karen opened it halfway, a smug smile on her face. "Well," she said, "you're still here. I thought you'd be gone by now." "I'm not going anywhere," I said. "The sheriff will be here soon." Her expression flickered, just for a moment. "Good," she said. We'll tell him the truth. When Deputy Miller arrived, a tall man with tired eyes and a mustache that seemed to weigh him down, he listened to both of us patiently. He looked over my documents, nodded, then turned to Karen. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "Mr. Reed here has the legal title. This property belongs to him." Karen crossed her arms. "That's not possible. There must be an error." "I understand," the deputy said. "But you'll need to vacate the premises until it's cleared up." Her tone sharpened. "You expect me to throw my children out on the street?" The deputy sighed. "Ma'am, this isn't negotiable." She didn't move. Didn't even blink. The tension hung in the air like heavy rain. Finally, the deputy turned to me. "I'll file a report," he said quietly. "But until a court order's issued, I can't force them out." So they stayed. Days turned into a strange standoff. I'd come every morning, work on the shed or garden, anything that didn't involve the house itself. Meanwhile, Karen's family lived inside, curtains drawn, lights on late into the night. Sometimes, I'd hear music playing, children shouting, dishes clattering. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Once, her husband, Mark, appeared on the porch while I was clearing brush. "You should stop coming around," he said calmly. "It's upsetting my wife." I looked at him. "It's upsetting me that you're living in my house." He shrugged. "Paperwork isn't everything." That line stuck with me. Paperwork isn't everything. As if ownership, effort, or law meant nothing compared to the stories people told themselves. Weeks passed. The legal process crawled forward. I sent emails, made calls, submitted every document twice. Meanwhile, the mountain began to change with the season, pine needles falling like slow rain, nights turning colder, wind sharper. I started spending more time there again, camping nearby to keep watch. The more I stayed, the more I noticed small things. The smell of wood smoke from the chimney, a child's laughter carried by the wind, the faint glow of a lamp through the window. It was hauntingly domestic, like watching a life I was never allowed to have. Then, one night, everything shifted. A storm rolled in from the west, fast and violent. Rain hammered the trees, and lightning split the sky in crooked veins. Around midnight, I heard shouting. Then glass breaking. I grabbed my flashlight and ran toward the house. Smoke was seeping through a broken window. Inside, through the beam of my light, I saw fire licking up the edge of the kitchen wall. Karen stood outside with her kids, panicking. It started near the stove. She cried. "We were trying to heat water, please, help." Without thinking, I rushed inside. The heat hit like a wave. I threw my jacket over my mouth, grabbed the nearest blanket, and beat at the flames until they died down. Smoke filled the air, heavy and bitter. When it was finally out, the kitchen was blackened, but the structure held. Outside, the rain poured again, hissing against the smoldering wood. Karen looked shaken, her face pale in the lightning flashes. "You saved it," she whispered. "It's my home," I said quietly. I wasn't going to let it burn. For the first time, she didn't argue. The next morning, her husband was gone. Karen and the kids packed their things without a word. She stopped near the porch steps and turned to me. "I grew up in a house just like this," she said softly. "When it was foreclosed, I thought maybe, if I claimed it hard enough, it would feel like mine again." There was no anger in her voice, only exhaustion. I nodded slowly. "Sometimes we want things back that were never ours to keep." She didn't reply, just nodded once and walked down the hill, rain beginning to fall again in fine mist. It took months to finish the repairs. The smoke stains in the kitchen never completely disappeared, but I didn't mind. They reminded me that the house had survived, like me, scarred but still standing. I rebuilt the porch, painted the shutters, planted wildflowers near the fence. Each morning, the fog would lift a little earlier, and sunlight would spill through the windows I'd finally cleaned. Sometimes, when the wind blew through the trees, I thought I heard laughter, echoes of a family that had tried to belong there, even if the way they did it was wrong. And in a strange way, I felt grateful. Because their chaos had reminded me what a home really meant. Not just wood and stone, or deeds and documents, but care. Effort. The quiet promise to protect something fragile. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountain, I stood on the porch and looked out over the valley. The air smelled of pine and rain. The house no longer felt like it was holding its breath. It felt alive. And for the first time in a long while, so did I.